Imagine waking up to the love of your life announcing she's pregnant. A moment meant to be joyful, yet it shatters your world when you realize the child can't possibly be yours. Before we dive into this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's get started. I had always believed that relationships were built on trust, communication, and mutual respect. My fiancée, Jenny, and I had been together for a year and a half, a period during which we had grown closer, sharing dreams, fears, and countless memories. At 25 years old, I was at a stage in my life where I was trying to balance my career aspirations with a budding relationship. When Jenny decided to move in with me 6 months ago, it felt like a natural progression, one that solidified our commitment to each other. Our apartment was small but cozy, nestled in a quiet neighborhood that offered the perfect blend of privacy and community. We had adorned the space with personal touches, photos from our travels, artwork that spoke to our individual tastes, and a shared bookshelf that held our favorite reads. It was a sanctuary where we could unwind after long days, cooking meals together, watching movies, or simply enjoying each other's company. It was a Friday evening, just as the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a warm, golden hue across the living room. I had just returned from work, weary from a long week of meetings and deadlines. As I walked through the door, the familiar scent of Jenny's cooking greeted me, mingling with the faint aroma of her favorite lavender-scented candle. But tonight, something was different. Jenny stood in the middle of the room, her usual radiant smile brighter than ever. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and there was a certain nervous energy about her that I hadn't noticed before. "I have something to show you," she said, holding up a small white stick. Confusion washed over me. Jenny was known for her sense of humor, often pulling lighthearted pranks to keep things lively. "What's that?" I asked, approaching her with a bemused smile. "It's a positive pregnancy test," she announced, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I froze for a moment, the room spinning slightly. A pregnancy? It seemed surreal. My mind raced to process the information. Jenny was an incredible person, caring, loving, and always attentive. But there was something nagging at the back of my mind. "Are you sure?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Maybe it's a prank?" She laughed, a melodious sound that usually brought me comfort. "No joke, Alex. I'm really pregnant." As the initial shock began to wear off, a cloud of doubt started to form in my mind. 5 years ago, I had made the decision to get a vasectomy. It was a choice born out of necessity, after a previous relationship had gone awry due to an unplanned pregnancy scare. Since then, I had been diligent about my health, attending yearly checkups to ensure everything was in order. The vasectomy was still effective, a fact that should have given me peace of mind. But now, with Jenny's revelation, that peace was shattered. My mind couldn't help but churn with questions. How could this be? If I hadn't fathered any children since the procedure, then this baby wasn't mine. The implications were staggering. That night, lying in bed beside Jenny, her hand gently resting on my chest, I couldn't shake the growing sense of betrayal. Her happiness seemed genuine, but the discrepancy between our circumstances cast a shadow over the moment. Unable to contain my turmoil, I quietly slipped out of bed around midnight. The apartment was dark, the sounds of the city muted by the thick walls. I made my way to the kitchen, brewed a strong cup of coffee, and sat down at the dining table with my laptop. My hands trembled slightly as I opened my email account. I began composing a message to my closest friends, Mike, Jake, and Ethan, detailing the situation. I needed their support, their insight, and possibly their assistance in uncovering the truth. I explained everything: the positive test, the vasectomy, and the growing suspicion that Jenny had cheated. I asked them to act as if they knew nothing initially, to avoid tipping her off, but to be prepared to help if I needed it. After hitting send, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Reaching out was a risk, but I couldn't navigate this alone. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The following morning, I did everything I usually did to maintain the facade of normalcy. I went through the motions of getting ready for work, exchanged pleasantries with Jenny, and left the apartment as if nothing had changed. However, deep down, I was already making plans. As the day progressed, I grappled with conflicting emotions: love, anger, confusion, and hurt. By evening, I made the decision to take a week off work. The workload could wait. This was something I needed to address head-on. Mike, my best friend since high school, was the first to respond to my email. He was always the voice of reason in our group, calm and collected even in the most chaotic situations. Jake and Ethan followed suit, each offering their support in different ways. Jake, a tech-savvy individual, volunteered to help me track Jenny's movements, while Ethan, with his knack for investigation, offered to dig into any background information we might need. Together, we devised a plan. We would discreetly follow Jenny, observing her interactions and movements without arousing suspicion. The goal was to determine if there was any truth to my suspicions of infidelity. The next morning, instead of heading to work, I met up with Mike and Ethan at our usual hangout spot, a local coffee shop with a cozy ambience. We discussed the logistics, ensuring that our surveillance would be as unobtrusive as possible. Jake would set up tracking tools on my phone and laptop to monitor any unusual activity, all within legal boundaries. Jenny seemed blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface of our relationship. She was cheerful, busy planning for the baby names, nursery themes, and even scouring online stores for essentials. Her happiness was palpable, yet every smile she directed my way felt like a dagger to my heart. For the first couple of days, our observations yielded nothing concrete. Jenny seemed to be genuinely invested in preparing for the future. We decided to extend our surveillance, keeping a close eye on her interactions outside our home. On the third day, everything changed. We noticed Jenny frequently meeting someone after work. At first, it was just brief encounters, but over time, the meetings became more frequent and prolonged. One afternoon, Jenny excused herself, claiming she had a work commitment that required her presence outside the office. Curiosity piqued. We decided to follow her discreetly. She got into her car, a silver sedan, and drove to a nondescript building in a less traveled part of town. The place looked like a motel, and Jenny checked in under a different name. My heart pounded as I watched her enter the motel. It felt surreal, as if I was in a scene from a movie I didn't want to be a part of. Mike and Ethan exchanged worried glances, while Jake kept a close watch from a distance, ensuring our own safety. Later that evening, Jenny and the man left the motel together, driving in the same direction. Mike decided to follow him, keeping a safe distance. After about an hour, the man parked outside a suburban home, a neatly kept house with a white picket fence. A woman and 2 children greeted him at the door. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We have a lot of unbelievable stories ready for you. The sight confirmed my worst fears. The man was married. It was the final piece of evidence I needed to solidify my suspicions. My heart felt like it was being ripped out of my chest, the realization of betrayal sinking in. With the confirmation that Jenny was involved with a married man, our approach needed to be strategic. Confronting her directly could lead to an explosive confrontation. We needed a plan that would expose her deceit without immediate fallout, allowing me to process everything calmly. Mike, with his level-headedness, took the lead. We need to make her face the consequences of her actions without giving her a chance to manipulate the situation, he said thoughtfully. We have to ensure she doesn't end up homeless or in a worse situation than she already is. Jake added, "What if we use her own announcement against her? Take away her sense of security by removing her possessions? She won't have a place to stay, and her parents might step in. Ethan nodded in agreement. It's risky, but it might be the only way to make her realize the gravity of what she's done. By Friday, everything was set in motion. I called Jenny, inviting her to dinner with her parents and siblings at her home. She was excited about the idea, eager to share the news of her pregnancy with her family. It was the perfect opportunity for our plan to unfold. Mike and the others were ready to act. We had rented a U-Haul under the guise of helping Jenny move her belongings. The idea was to appear supportive, but in reality, we were prepared to seize her possessions and deliver them to her family's home, effectively forcing her to rely on them. Saturday arrived, and the tension was palpable. We gathered at our apartment early in the morning, ensuring that everything was in place. Jenny was up early, bustling around, preparing for the day ahead. We drove to Jenny's parents' house, a modest but well-maintained home with a welcoming facade. Upon arrival, we split up, blending into the household activities. Mike and Jake discreetly positioned themselves near the driveway, ready to act when the time was right. The lunch with her family was warm and convivial. Stories were shared, and laughter filled the air as Jenny announced her pregnancy. Her parents beamed with pride, and her siblings chimed in with excitement and questions about the baby. It was all so heartwarming. Yet beneath the surface, the plan was unfolding. As the meal progressed, I received a call from Mike. He was signaling that the time was ripe. Taking a deep breath, I stood up, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on me. Jenny looked expectantly at me, probably thinking I was about to propose or share in her joy. "Can I have everyone's attention?" I began, my voice steady but my heart racing. I glanced at Jenny, who gave me an encouraging smile, unaware of the storm about to hit. I started recounting our relationship, the way we met, the memories we created, the love we shared. The room was filled with smiles and nods, everyone hanging onto my every word. I reached a pivotal moment, taking a deep breath before delivering the blow. "And that's why it hurts so much that you cheated on me and got pregnant by someone else." The room fell silent. Time seemed to stand still as Jenny's smile faded, her eyes widening in shock. "Alex, that's not a funny joke," she stammered, trying to find her footing. I leaned into the moment, letting the silence speak volumes. "I'm not joking. The moment you told me you were pregnant, I knew. I got a vasectomy 5 years ago, and I go for regular checkups. So if you're pregnant, you didn't get it from me." Her face turned pale, and she looked around, searching for support among her family. The atmosphere shifted from joy to confusion and then to tension. Just then, her phone rang on the table, cutting through the uneasy silence. I motioned for her to answer it, expecting the man she had been seeing to call. As she picked up, the room held its breath, anticipating the conversation. The voice on the other end was loud and agitated. "Jenny, what the hell is going on? How could you do this to me?" It was him, the real father of her baby. His words were filled with anger and betrayal, but there was also a hint of desperation. I watched as Jenny's composure crumbled, her family now looking between us with concern and confusion. I decided to take control of the situation. "Looks like he doesn't want to be involved," I said calmly, trying to inject some semblance of logic into the chaotic moment. "Maybe it's time for you to consider staying with your parents until things settle down." As I spoke, Mike and Jake moved into action. They loaded Jenny's belongings into the U-Haul, making it seem like a supportive gesture. In reality, they were bringing everything to her parents' house, ensuring she had no place to stay elsewhere. Leaving Jenny at her parents' house was one of the hardest things I had ever done. The drive back was silent, the gravity of the situation weighing on all of us. My heart ached as I replayed the events in my mind, the sense of loss and betrayal gnawing at my insides. Upon returning home, I found my sister waiting for me. She had always been my confidant, someone I could turn to in times of crisis. Seeing her there, offering silent support, was a small comfort in the midst of the chaos. "I knew you could handle it," she said softly, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. Her presence was a balm to my frayed nerves, providing a sense of stability I desperately needed. The week that followed was a blur of emotions. I couldn't focus on anything other than the fact that Jenny had betrayed my trust so profoundly. I spent hours reflecting on our relationship, trying to understand where things had gone wrong. Was there a sign I missed? Did I unknowingly contribute to her decision? Nights were the hardest. I lay awake, the sounds of the city outside my window serving as a constant reminder of the life I was now forced to navigate without Jenny. My friends were there for me, providing a shoulder to lean on, listening to me rant and vent about the pain I was experiencing. By the end of the week, Mike, Jake, and Ethan had helped me clean out the apartment. We went through her belongings meticulously, ensuring that everything she owned was accounted for. However, in the haste of the situation, some of my own items were mistakenly taken as well. My frustration grew, but I pushed it aside, focusing instead on the larger issue at hand. Realizing that not everything had been returned, I decided to contact Jenny's sister, Emily. I needed to arrange a meeting to exchange our belongings, ensuring that nothing of mine was left in limbo. Emily agreed to the meeting, but set one condition: a sit-down with Jenny to hear her side of the story. Part of me wanted to decline, to leave everything as it was and move on without any further confrontation. However, I knew that I had a tablet with important work files that couldn't be left with her family. Reluctantly, I agreed, making it clear that there was. The day of the meeting arrived, bringing with it a mixture of dread and anticipation. I dressed in my usual work attire, ensuring that I looked presentable and composed. Inside, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. What would Jenny say? Would she try to manipulate me one last time? I arrived at Emily's house, where she greeted me warmly, but with a hint of sadness in her eyes. We settled into the living room, the air thick with unspoken tension. Moments later, Jenny arrived, looking tired and disheveled. It was clear that the past week had taken a toll on her. Emily began by trying to mediate the conversation, encouraging both of us to speak openly and honestly. Jenny looked down, avoiding eye contact, while I remained steadfast, determined to get the closure I desperately needed. "Alex," she started, her voice trembling, "I know you're angry and hurt. I never meant for any of this to happen." I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "Jenny, you didn't just hurt me. You betrayed our relationship and our future. I thought we were building something meaningful together." She reached out, her hand hesitating in the space between us. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. The pregnancy? I panicked. Her admission stung, but I knew I had to stay strong. A pregnancy isn't something you can panic your way out of. It requires responsibility, commitment, and honesty. None of that is possible when you're hiding things from me. As the conversation progressed, Emily retrieved the tablet from a nearby shelf, handing it to me. "Jenny kept this with her," she explained. "She said it was important for her work." I took the tablet, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. Inside were files crucial for my job: presentations, reports, and sensitive information that couldn't fall into the wrong hands. Ensuring its return was paramount, but the emotional weight of the situation overshadowed everything else. Jenny looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "Alex, please. I didn't mean for this to happen. I love you." Her words pierced through me, evoking a pang of sympathy amidst the hurt. "Love? How is this love? Lying to me? Cheating on me? I don't see any love in that." She sobbed, the facade of composure crumbling completely. I was scared, overwhelmed. I thought I could handle it on my own, But I was wrong. I shook my head, the finality of my decision settling in. It's too late for that. We've destroyed everything we had. I need to move on. The exchange was over. The bridge between us burnt to ashes. I turned to leave, feeling a sense of liberation mingled with lingering sorrow. As I walked out of Emily's house, the weight of the past weeks began to lift. I knew that healing would take time, but the clarity I sought was finally within reach. The path forward was uncertain, but I was ready to embrace it one step at a time. The days following the confrontation were a blend of introspection and rebuilding. Without Jenny in my life, the apartment felt emptier, quieter. I found myself reminiscing about the good times we shared, the plans we made, and the dreams we had for the future. But dwelling on the past wasn't an option. I had to look ahead. I leaned on my friends more than ever, their unwavering support a beacon of light in the darkness. Mike, always the pragmatic one, helped me organize my thoughts, encouraging me to focus on self-care and personal growth. Jake, with his technological prowess, assisted me in securing my digital life, ensuring that no traces of the past lingered unnecessarily. Ethan, the ever-present optimist, reminded me that life had a way of moving forward, no matter how daunting the path seemed. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.